Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the DC Stewart Show Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Stewart, along with my kinfolk co-host, Isaah, and we here on a Saturday night. It is Saturday, November 8th, and it is college football game day as usual. We're in week 11 of the college football season. Things are beginning to shape up, and things are beginning to really get interesting about which teams are going to be competing for that playoff, that 12-team playoff run that we've been talking about ever since the season has started in September. Folks, I'm so happy that you have joined us. You're here with us because we do consider you family, and I'll keep saying that over and over again. Each time you join us and hang with us, you're rolling with us as family. Because that's how we look at it. And that's how we roll here at the DC Stewart Show Podcast, featuring Isaah and featuring Najee. Najee is away on assignment today, but Najee is going to join us on Monday, and he will have a full, he'll have a full segment of basketball and football. We'll be talking a little bit about the weekend sports wrap up, and we'll go from there. And we got some visitors and some guests coming next week, so we'll keep you posted on that. Make sure you hit that like button and that subscribe button because we're knocking it out of the park. We're hitting home runs. Actually, we're hitting grand slams, the way I look at it. For all of the people who have joined us, who have been with us from day one, thank you so much. We got Tony, Freebird Tony. He's always here with us. And we have several other folks that's along with us that's always here with us. So we thank you for joining us as usual, along with another beautiful Saturday. I got my kinfolk Isaah right here with me, and he's wearing his black cap today, and he's pretty happy because the University of Miami took care of business like they should have done the last month, but they didn't. So they took care of business today. They got Syracuse handled. We'll definitely dive deep into that game and see where Miami did all the right things and did some things that, they can actually build upon moving forward into December. Now, it's a long shot that they're going to get into that playoff system. I personally don't think they will, but we'll see. And I'm going to get Isaiah's take on that. So let me introduce you to my kinfolk and my lifelong friend and my family. Isaah, what the hell is going on with you tonight on a Saturday night?
Well, beautiful weekend, man. I just feel blessed and highly favored because of just life in general, man, to be able to go out and hang out with family and got a chance to hang out with my handsome dad and my brother and my nephew. And, it don't get any better than that, and then be able to come back and film a show and get this thing out of the way and chop it up with you as, like you said, a lifetime friend. We've been knowing each other since we were like 4 or 5 years old, and never wavered from it. And friends go through crisis, and they get in and out of friends and stuff. We've never done that at all, man. It's been a join at the hip type venture with us. But yeah, man, this weekend has been amazing. The only thing is you got some difficulties with killings with law enforcement, and happen to know a few of them. And my condolences to the families of the law enforcement folks that
I
passed
second
away
to
this
that.
past week.
Definitely.
And the thing second is the fact that Erik Spoelstra, head coach of the Miami Heat, had appeared to me look like arson, but we never know what the case has been right now. But his house burned down to literally the ground. So, just want to send our prayers out to all the families who are involved with this tragedy, man, because that's what it really is. So, yeah. But other than that, let's chop it up with the sports, baby. It's down like that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk in segments for topics today, and we're going to talk about the beginning is rest in peace Woodrow Lowe. Woodrow Lowe was a linebacker from the then San Diego Chargers back in the 80s and back in the 90s. Woodrow Lowe was a super talented linebacker. He actually did a lot of good things for the University of Alabama when he played for Alabama, and he actually played under Bear Bryant, the legendary Bear Bryant from Alabama. And by the
Mhm.
way, Alabama is playing right now as we speak,
Yeah.
and they are winning against LSU. LSU is
Yeah.
playing hard, but they just not playing hard enough. And they're going to have to regroup after this year is over and get the right coach in there, and then they can think about things like that. And this is all Annie Brown driven segments and topics. Second segment is going to be Antonio Brown has been arrested in Dubai and extradited to New Jersey, and he waived his extradition fight, and he's going to be picked up and extradited back to Miami to be charged and stand trial for so-called attempted murder charges. These are alleged charges that during a fight after a boxing match in Miami, he had a squabble with some people, and supposedly, allegedly, he grabbed the gun of a security guard and he fired that gun off. We'll talk a little bit about that because we want to dive deep into Antonio Brown's background. We want to kind of bring you to the front side of how Antonio Brown grew up. He grew up in Miami, just as me and Isaah did, and he was raised by a father and a mother. His father, Eddie Brown, played football. Eddie Brown actually played arena football for a while. Antonio Brown made it to the big time, though. He made it to the pros coming out of a small school in Michigan, and he got to the highest of heights. Played with Ben Roethlisberger at the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's played with Tom Brady. He won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady, and he's done a lot of good things, but actually some of the things that's not so good has actually overtaken some of the good things that he's done. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. The Cowboys rookie tragedy, Marshawn Kneeland. He's a young man, 24 years old, graduated from Western Michigan. He went to Western Michigan and played football there. Made it to the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys, made it to the big time. I mean, this brother, he took himself to that next level, and he was good at what he was doing, and he was getting better. But he ended his life, and we are going to send out our condolences to him and his family and the people who loved him and all the people who were around him. The next one is going to be Erik Spoelstra, who's the head coach of the Miami Heat basketball team. We're going to be talking about how Erik Spoelstra, his achievements during his time as a coach for the Miami Heat, because he kind of learned the craft under Pat Riley. He learned under several different coaches, but Pat Riley was the most influential coach on him to bring him to where he is today, which to me, I think Erik Spoelstra is one of the top coaches still in the NBA. And the outpouring of love and support for him has just been amazing for that man's house to burn to the ground the way it did. And we're going to talk about Mark Sanchez, who had an incident when he was dispatched to Indianapolis to cover a Colts game. And, all of these are allegations, but some of them are actually factual, that he actually got into it with a gentleman who was unloading a truck in Indianapolis. And so the gentleman was pretty banged up the whole way. And we'll talk about how Fox Sports cut Mark Sanchez loose as well. If you got anything to talk with us about, just let us know. We're going to talk about week 11. We're going to kind of break down some of the teams that's already been slotted in if the playoffs were to start today. So we have a full show for everyone today, and we're going to bring everything to you that we can bring to you. So when you leave here today, you will have everything you need from what we're going to be talking about. We're going to make some of our predictions, and I want to talk a little bit about, we had a poll that we put out just yesterday about if these coaches were coach of the year and candidates, which one would you pick to become the coach of the year? And it looks like Kirk Cignetti scored really high on that whole thing. I was looking here, and let me pull it up. I think he's got 60+%. Kirk Cignetti, who's the head coach of the Indiana football team, the Hoosiers, and they're undefeated right now, and they probably will stay undefeated until they get to the Big Ten championship, and we'll see what happens there. But I'm going to go ahead and give you some numbers real quick before we get this party started, and we'll look at some of the things that, we talked about. So let me pull up that particular poll. Looks like Kirk Cignetti got 58%. Because Yeah, it dropped. I mean, we're dropping the
Out of like
mid-season
what,
college
5 people,
football coach
DC?
of the year, right?
Yeah.
Looked like Kirby Smart ended up with 19%. Marcus Freeman ended up with 12%, and Lane Kiffin, who's the head coach of Mississippi, and they won big today. I mean, they blew out a smaller team, but Mississippi is definitely going to be competitive moving into the SEC West championship game, and we'll see who ends up into that one because Texas A&M still have a lot to say about that. Marcus Freeman is the head coach of Notre Dame. It looks like they're playing Navy right now. I don't know the exact score for that one, but I'll go down the score board and get back with you on that one.
Marcus Freeman was my pick, DC, on that
Okay,
list.
so Marcus, what made you pick Marcus Freeman?
Because I'm looking at his body of work. These other guys who they just flat out been winning, But Marcus Freeman, he got beat front game, very first game of the season by the University of Miami, and from then on he just been steadfast and pretty much unmovable. He's won the rest of his games. I mean, he's been into some nail biters, but he's pulled the rest of the games off. So that was the reason why I picked him, because when you got a guy who looked like his season was going to tank, and he looked like he just didn't have it all, and to turn around that team and to have fully control of how his team has gone so far, I just had to pick him because it's a sign of a good coach, man. And the rest of them are good too. Now, don't get me wrong; the rest of those guys are absolutely superb coaches. But the mere fact that Marcus Freeman, the way he got beat, I'm not saying smothered at the front game, but he just seemed like he just didn't have a clue to be able to combat the things that the University of Miami was doing to him, and to come back and regroup the next following week, and then to get his team back on track to win the way they are. He had to be commended for that, and that's the reason why I picked him. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it was a good pick, to be honest with you, because Marcus Freeman has really dynamically turned that team around from those first two games that they ended up losing, because technically we were counting them out. Technically, I know I was. I was basically saying that, look, here's the deal. Notre Dame is not going to be anywhere close to being into that playoff. But right now, they look equally as strong, right?
Yep. I said they was done, but the way they're playing now, they might be in a mix, man, right in the center of it.
Yeah. You know what? My personal pick technically is always going to be Kirby Smart. And I say Kirby Smart, not because I grew up in, Miami, and then I lived in Atlanta during my high school years. I just think the body of work that Kirby Smart has done year in and year out is just phenomenal, because Kirby Smart, he has the mojo, and he knows how to motivate these young men, and he knows how to bring out the best of them talent wise. And he's going through kind of like what Saban went through on into Saban's career, when Georgia is a target for every team that play them. I mean, Georgia is technically a target, and all of these teams want to bump Georgia off. And it doesn't seem like it's being consistent that Kirby is allowing that to happen, because he's going to have his team prepared and ready to take the field and play each week. That's just without a doubt. That's why I picked Kirby Smart. Now, Marcus Freeman would be my second best. I mean, because if you look at Lane Kiffin's body of work is equally as impressive, but I just think Kirby Smart sticks out to me beyond the rest of them. Now, Kirk Cignetti has went above and beyond to be able to go from James Madison, because I think he started at Elon University, and I'll follow up on that. He started at Elon, and then he moved to James Madison, and everywhere that man touched down, he has been a winner. And that's why Indiana went on and they hurried up to sign him to a massive contract to keep him around, because they don't even want him contemplating leaving Indiana.
Yeah.
If you look at Indiana chances right now, I think Indiana has a good chance to make it to the national championship. With some of the talent, they have Fernando Mendoza Jr. his father, Fernando Mendoza Sr., used to play with Mario Cristobal at the university. Well, he played at Christopher Columbus High School. And Mario went on to play at the University of Miami. And it was just beyond that time. Mario won a couple of national championships, and then he ended up becoming a coach. So I would just say Kirk Cignetti, for him to receive that 58% is well-deserved and beyond, because he has done a phenomenal job with that team. They got threatened today, though. I mean, because if you look at what Penn State was doing to him today, Penn State was playing above the rim because they were at home and Indiana was on the road, but they had the wherewithal to pull this game out. So I just say congratulations to all of these guys, and it wouldn't bother me a bit whichever one of them won. And it was other coaches deserve to be on this list as well. These are just the top 4 coaches that I thought that stuck out from the rest, right?
Yeah.
So let's start this thing. Let's get this party started, and you tell me where the party is, because we've been partying here for a whole year, right? We've been putting this party out there for a whole year. And when we have a party, we bring the best. We bring the best food. We bring the best booze. We bring the best drinks. We bring the best everything. And then some partying on top of that, you know. You don't even have to go to the after hours. You just stick with us here, and you won't need to go anywhere else. So let's start out with this first topic, and let's talk a little bit about Woodrow Lowe. 71 years old. He passed away, and he was the one most decorated defenders in Alabama Crimson Tide history. I mean, he was just exceptional. He played a lot bigger than his size, because back then linebackers probably was 200 pounds at best. Because if you look at offensive linemen back then, offensive lineman was 220 was heavy back then, right? Back in the 70s and the 80s. Mm-hmm. But Woodrow Lowe, I remember him most fondly in that Miami Dolphins game that went into all of those overtimes against the Chargers, along with Kellen Winslow and Dan Fouts, James Brooks, Chuck Muncie. Mm-hmm. I think Chuck Muncie was on that team too, right?
Chuck Muncie was brutal, yeah.
And you know,
Chuck Muncie was a brutal.
He was a brutal back. He was for his time. He was a big back. Man. He was like Pete Johnson. Pete Johnson was a bigger back for the Cincinnati Bengals back then. These were backs that weighed 240 pounds. Some of them. Yeah. I mean, you look at the size of these guys. I think Muncie was a little bit leaner than Pete Johnson in terms of his weight. And
Pete Johnson was considered to be a fat ass back then, man.
Exactly.
He almost looked like a lineman. But Chuck Muncie had those signature goggles on like Eric Dickerson used to wear. Yes. And man, he was amazing. Bro, he would come through that hole, dropping them shoulders, spinning and throwing elbows and everything, delivering licks to the linebackers, man. He was an exciting guy to put your eyes on, man. It just, that game was going back and forth, DC. I remember
it was one of the most.
It was going back and forth.
To me, that game was one of the most legendary games, prolific games I've ever seen in NFL football. And I'm not saying that because I favor Miami. It's just that these teams did not give up. I mean, they just pounded each other. I mean, they had to have oxygen. They had to have IVs stuck in their arm in this game, because if you look at Winslow, they carried off Kellen Winslow Sr. They carried him off the field at least 4 times, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know, and Chuck Muncie. To get back to Chuck Muncie, if you look at his size, it says here his playing weight was 227 and he was 6'3". That's pretty big for a running back then. And he had moves. You notice how quick he could move, and he could cut, and he could accelerate, or he could decelerate. It was just fantastic what Chuck Muncie was able to do.
This was at a tailback position, because
at a tailback, yes.
And what was amazing about that, because this is in the Tony Dorsett era, where Tony Dorsett didn't even wear 200 pounds, man. I mean,
Dorsett was about 175 pounds, right?
Well, a
something
little
like
more
that.
than that. He might have got to 190 at biggest that he's ever been,
Mm-hmm.
but Muncie was 6'3" plus 227 to 230 pounds. And they was feeding him that ball right and left, and the Dolphin was clacking him, and it was going back and forth. They were scoring, and the Dolphins were scoring. They were scoring, the Dolphins were scoring, and it was going up and down the field. It was nasty on the field. It was muggy and wet. And dude, that game was amazing. Yep. I remember that game, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. So Woodrow Lowe, the linebacker for the Chargers, he was on that Chargers defense, and they had a solid defense back then. You know, they had pretty reasonable defensive backs. I mean, talented defensive backs. I remember Glenn Edwards, one of the defensive backs for the Chargers back there. But
Mm-hmm.
Miami, the Dolphins had a lot of talent on that team as well. And for these two
Mm-hmm.
teams to match up and for the Chargers to come to Miami and play that many overtimes to get a win on a
Yeah.
field goal, because I remember
You got
Ross
to also
Benershka kicked
remember,
that
DC,
field
how
goal,
many
right?
people that's in the Hall of Fame from that game. You know how
Exactly.
many people in the Hall of Fame from that particular game itself? Yeah.
So Miami and San Diego, let's see how many overtimes they played into. And now the San Diego Chargers is now the Los Angeles Chargers, by the way, just to bring everybody
Mm-hmm.
up to speed. That game was a 1982 AFC divisional playoff game, and basically they went into and it ended 41-38 to show you how tight that game was. That was the first time I saw a flea
Yeah.
flicker. You remember that flea flicker where
Oh,
Duro
yeah.
Harris ran a
Yeah.
15 down and
Mm-hmm.
in, and then he pitched it to Tony Nathan for that touchdown,
Mm-hmm.
which the
Yeah.
Dolphins thought they had that game at that point too.
They
And
thought they had it wrapped.
they thought they had
Yeah.
it in the wrap, and it just didn't end because the Chargers didn't give up on defense or offense. Chargers had Wes Chandler, they had Charlie Joyner, they had Chuck Muncie, they had James Brooks and Dan Fouts on that offense, and Kellen Winslow
Mm-hmm.
Sr.
Yeah.
And they had a
Yeah.
pretty
What
decent
a
offensive line
team.
as well, right?
Yeah. Big names on that team, man.
Yeah. So we just wanted to kind of pay homage to Woodrow Lowe because we try to bring some of these throwback players into our daily
Pioneers,
conversations because they
they're
help form
pioneers,
football like
man.
it is.
Of course. Yeah.
They help shape it,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Without a doubt, man. You're talking about these guys who really brought things to fruition because, like I said, Chuck Muncie had these signature goggles that Eric Dickerson later emulated, and it goes on from there. And now, currently, here is other players that's emulating is like a trend is going back and forth where you even look at Harris right now, they all look at these old players and emulate these old running backs, the style of running backs, the stiff arms and the elusiveness of some of the running backs back then because Muncie, he was, oh man, that guy was amazing.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
had some off-field troubles. I remember those days where they were talking about some of the things he had off-field, but when he played on
Yeah.
that field, he played
Yeah.
hard. I mean, he didn't
Yeah.
he didn't ease up
No.
at all, when it came to that.
Yeah.
It looks like Kellen Winslow had 13 catches for 166 yards and 1 TD, and the Dolphins came back from a 24-0 deficit to tie that game and force that overtime. With
Mm-hmm.
the Chargers
Mm-hmm.
winning it. It looks like over Woodrow Lowe's career, he ended up playing 11 seasons, and he had 20 plus interceptions during his career. So our
And
condolences go.
DC, those years is like a whole career because that was the span of it really. If you got 11 years in, that was a long time.
That was a long
as an
career back
NFL
then.
player.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, that was a
yeah.
long career. If you really look at it up close and personal, because they didn't
Mm-hmm.
have the safety measures that they do today. They didn't have the equipment that these players play with
Even
today,
the rules,
and
the
or the
rules,
rules.
DC, yeah,
Exactly.
yep.
Yeah, they didn't have any of those things. He had 21 interceptions that stood out for decades amongst linebackers because usually
Yeah,
that number usually sticks with DVs. I mean, and linebackers
mhm,
usually don't have
yeah, yeah,
interceptions like that over their
yeah.
career, right?
That shows you he was really good in coverage. When you got a linebacker to get that many picks, that means it was excellent coverage, man. Because that means he's not letting anything come underneath. He's reading the quarterback eyes and reacting. You just don't get that many interceptions as a player, man. I mean, you can do 20 years and don't get no 21 interceptions. That's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
absolutely. He moved on after he retired from pro football and he became a high school football coach at Russell County High School in
Mm,
Seal, Alabama,
yeah.
before returning to his high school as an assistant coach on Central's 1993 state championship team. And he was the head
Wow.
coach at Selma High School in Selma, Alabama as well,
Wow,
compiling a
man.
10-10 record.
DC, this stuff need to be known, bro. You got
Absolutely.
a guy who did that much stuff and gave back like that, and we
Exactly.
just finding this
Helped
stuff
young
out when the
children.
man's
I mean, he
dead.
helped young men, young
Whew.
boys, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you talking about a long list of things that he did after his pro career and the body of work that he gave and the sacrifice and the giving back to the community for helping these young youth is amazing, man. Because I always love this stuff when you can just be not only just a coach, but to go to that highest plateau as being a NFL player, and then go back and deal with these young kids who's going through crisis. That you just look at the magnitude that you can help in so many ways being a coach and a father figure to a lot of these young kids because one look, and I refer back to this a lot with Teddy Bridgewater coming back to his old alma mater at Northwestern High School and to help them go to a national championship his first year there. But not only that, more importantly is the fact that they knew him. He's not that far off from being a player there. You're talking about a guy who's 30 years old. Everybody still remember him when he was in high school. And for him to give back to the community and to be able to touch him, to work with these kids and the see what it takes to get there. That's
True.
what's most important, DC.
That is
When
so
you see a
important.
guy who grew up in their community, who made it out, who did something significant, and to be still in an area where he can help, that stuff goes a tremendous way. And I just feel sad that we is just finding this stuff out when he's dead. We dug up his past and understand all of these beautiful, wonderful things that he did for years and years after, because we're talking about a guy who was 80 years old. Really, what was his age?
71 when he passed away. So
Okay, well, 71 is still a
but
long
it's
time.
still a long, yeah, that's still in age, that's a
Yeah.
long, as
You're
far as
talking
reaching
about
80.
71 years old. He played until he was probably in his 30s, and you talk
Right.
about another 40 years he gave back to the community. Unbelievable. Thanks a lot, man, for his courage and
We have
to
to
be
thank
able to
Woodrow
go
Lowe
back.
for his
Yeah.
contributions to
Hmm.
NFL pro football. Well, when he was at Alabama as well, and then
Yeah.
he gave back with high school football, helping young men become men, and that's how you raise
Hmm.
the parents raise them. Then they move on. They play sports, athletics, and then these coaches kind of play father figure for a lot of these
Yeah.
kids to
Yeah.
help bring them up. Especially for the kids
Mhm.
that don't have a father, because a lot of kids
Yeah.
don't have fathers. They have
That's
mothers, and
where that's where it's significant, man. When
it's
you
very
can get back
significant.
and you go down and speak with these kids to either work with them and give them a fighting opportunity to be able
Exactly.
to look forward and start kind of dreaming deeper, to knowing that it can happen to me. So
Exactly.
amazing work, amazing body of work. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's move on to the next topic, and this is a hard hitting topic. We want to actually bring you the meat and potatoes part of this topic because this topic is just it's a tragedy to me. And I say it's a tragedy because you have such a talented young man who fought his way through high school to make it to the college level, and to get from the college level to go to the pro level and reach the heights at the pro level that he did. And then it all comes tumbling down. And I'm going to have Isaah kind of narrate a lot of this for you and us, because Isaah lived in Miami. He's very aware, and we're talking about Antonio Brown. And Antonio Brown, to me, prolifically was one of the most talented wide receivers I have seen in decades. And I say that because the hookup that he had when he played at Pittsburgh with Ben Roethlisberger, and even when he left Pittsburgh, when he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and he played with Tom Brady, and Tom Brady was kind of he's a phenom in himself. And Tom Brady was one of the catalysts for getting Antonio Brown to come to Tampa Bay, and having Bruce Arians, who was the head coach at the time, open up his arms to Antonio Brown, because Antonio Brown was looked at by a lot of people as being difficult. I don't know whether it was his ego. I don't know whether it was just something that he thought that because he played professional football and he was talented, that he thought that he was kind of leap years ahead of other players. But what I want to talk about is this. Antonio Brown was arrested in Dubai a couple of days ago by U.S. Marshals. Antonio Brown had fled to Dubai from Miami because he was facing some alleged charges of attempted murder charges. And those are pretty serious charges. I don't care how you shape it. I don't care how you say it. When they are charging you with attempted murder, the prosecution has to have the reasonable suspicion to believe that you set out to hurt or kill someone. And that's the way I'm kind of saying it. I'm shaping it that way because it's very difficult to prove attempted murder charges, because you got to kind of try to get in the head of the person who was the aggressor and try to put that along with their actions against a victim. It's very difficult to prove because there could be any reasonable doubt in there. And I would think Isaah will believe the same thing, that he was arrested in Dubai. First of all, I have a problem with him fleeing to Dubai and not coming back and facing these charges. Facing these charges is his responsibility. It was his responsibility to stay in Miami and fight these charges. But he chose to go to Dubai, and he chose to do what he did. Isaah, help me understand. He graduated from New Orleans High School in Miami, and he was, the numbers he put up at New Orleans was amazing. And the numbers he put up in college at Central Michigan was amazing as well. And he's pretty close friends with Chad Johnson. We call him Ocho Cinco. And Ocho was on TV getting very emotional on his podcast, along with Shay Shay the other day, about Antonio Brown's plight. So help me understand the narrative all the way. Where do you think some of this stuff started with Antonio Brown having issues on and off the field that led him to this point where they had to arrest him, bring him back here, and he's going to have to stand trial for charges?
Man, DC, you just got into so deep into it, and there's so many questions about his life and the way he conducted himself. I just feel like he's got an issue mentally. I don't know whether it was football related issues in his head, because I said for many years now that he need help. For him, at first I just couldn't believe when you a player how you don't like cherish that moment of being where you are in life, to be able to be on that highest of heights when you're playing NFL football, man. NFL football is just a luxury to be able to take care of everybody you can imagine.
True.
With your salary, your mom,
True.
your cousins, your dad, and his freaking family, extended family, and all the jump offs that's coming along with you to to put yourself in a position where you can blow that stuff. And he did. And Antonio Brown should still be playing right now
I agree.
because I've seen him make some of the enormous catches, the enormous runs after a catch. I mean, unbelievable. You put him in the same category with Jerry Rice. He was just that good.
Just that
But to
talented.
just blow it, and blowing it by his own being, it was self-inflicted, every bit of it. And you dove into so much of this, man. And I'm looking at even down to the situation when he was at Pittsburgh, how he handled himself in the locker room amongst players and the coaches and stuff like that. It's despicable. I mean, the way he conducted himself. And I think that has to do with some form of mental issue because nobody said that about him in high school. Nobody said this about that in college. Nobody said that until he was well into his career in the NFL that, okay, now this guy got issues because he probably got clocked a couple times and got a shook up brain. And all of a sudden that thing escalated to the point where it started disturbing his behavior. So that's where we are right now. So the mere fact that you think that these charges are difficult to prove, oh no, DC, I disagree with you
Hmm.
because the way they characterizing this thing with the attempt murder, if you take somebody else's gun and you fire it, and it's on tape, that's not that difficult to prove, DC. And
Well,
the
obviously, the
sign of,
prosecutors they believe the same thing you believe, right? Because they charged him with that
well,
charge.
let me tell you this too. You take off running, that's a sign of guilt. I'm just telling you, you take off running not to face these charges, not to go in there and say, okay, here I am. Now give me a bond. Let me get me an attorney and we're going to fight this thing head up. He took off running. He tucked tail and ran, and then he got over in Dubai and started taunting the system, riding a bicycle, waving like I'm good, I ain't nothing gonna happen to me. Man, he just don't know. He's getting ready to face an uphill battle, and he better have his finances in order to keep his feet on the ground. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, these charges are severe and they gonna work these thing and they gonna throw the book at him because of his attitude, how he handled this thing. This is nothing less than you driving down the street and you know damn well you just plowed down a pedestrian and you did not render this pedestrian help and you took off running. This is something like that, DC.
Right,
You
right.
fire a firearm and then you skip out of the country. Man, he better listen. He better have his finances in order. He's better go get the most highest prominent attorney that he can find because you just don't know how far this thing and how deep it's going to go because it's so many people was at that venue and you got a nutcase like him firing shots. You
Hmm.
don't know where the fragments hit somebody. You got the alleged security guard who claimed that he's now got an issue with work now because a guy took his firearm and fired at somebody. Man, you just don't have any idea what the consequences could be with him. And I just feel bad because the guy need help. It's clear that he needs some help, some professional help. I'm so sad that nobody can get in this guy's ear and get him to harness his attitude because it's been one thing after the other, one thing after the other. You take a guy like Tom Brady to just bow down, get this guy on the same team, go there and win a Super Bowl, bring him into his house, and he just showed his natural butt, took his
Yes,
clothes off,
yes.
took his clothes off in the middle of a game
Game
where
in
it
New
is a
York.
sold out stadium. This was in Tampa.
Yeah,
He took his
he
clothes
shedded
off,
his
man.
shoulder pads and his jersey, and
And he
he
claimed he wanted to take his pants off, but with a jock, you got your rear end out.
hmm
And listen, man, if he would have did that, he would have been hauled off the jail then for indecent exposure. But he took off his shoulder pads, his helmet, and his jersey, and he was running down with his torso out,
right.
which is a sign of disrespect to the organization and everybody else, man. And man, I just feel for the guy, man. And I watched that segment with Ocho, who got emotional because Ocho knows when you grow up in the area in Miami, and dude, when your chances of making it so slim, and to be
That's a
able to
good
go
point. That's a
there
very, very good
and make
point,
it,
what you just
man.
said. Yeah.
DC is sick, man, to think about how this guy can wind up, man. He can wind up in prison for a while. And he just don't know all the off the field stuff, like the residence where he was throwing stuff off the balcony, and then the footage of him cursing out his girlfriend and the kids and all that type of stuff. All of this stuff gonna come into play. They're gonna bottle all that stuff on there, and they're gonna throw it as a character witnesses, man. They're gonna all jump on him. And when your feet is to the fire, when the chips are down, people have a tendency of piling on, man. They don't
hmm
get you no slack. When a man is down, they're gonna crush you. So he better start crossing his finger. He's about to stay in prayer. He's about to get the best attorneys that he can find, and that's the only way he gonna come out on top of this thing, man. Because that running, skipping out of the country, did not do him any good for doing that. I don't know why he didn't think that they was going to track him down and pick him up and bring him into justice. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Antonio Brown, the football player. Let's talk a little bit about the talent level that he had, and I'll just revert back to what you said about how talented Antonio Brown was, especially when it was come to running routes. When he was with Pittsburgh, if his quarterback got in trouble, he was going to save his quarterback. He was coming back to the
Coming
ball.
back to help.
He'd
Yep.
have his arm up. Look, I'm here. And when he caught it, the defenders was in a heap of trouble, because if they didn't have two or three defenders closing in on him at one time, it was over. He was going to gain a large chunk of yardage, or he was going to take it to the house. Looks as though he played quarterback, wide receiver, and kick returner in high school at Miami Norland High School from 2003 to 2005. Looks like he took a prep school detour, and he went to North Carolina Tech Prep in 2006 because he was denied at Florida State because of academic issues, according to this. He enrolled at NC Tech in Durham and played dual threat quarterback, putting over 1,200 passing yards, 500 rushing yards, and then he earned a late offer at Central Michigan University. His career at Central Michigan University, first year, he walked on and quickly earned a scholarship, 102 receptions for 1,003 yards and 6 TDs. Named MAC Freshman of the Year. Sophomore year, 93 catches, 998 yards, 7 TDs. Key special teams player with multiple punt and kick returns for TDs. Junior year, 2009, 110 receptions, 1,198 yards, 9 TDs. He declared for the NFL draft after 3 seasons. Career totals 305 receptions for 3,199 yards, 22 receiving TDs, and 6 return TDs. If that's not impressive, I don't know what else is. Can you give me anything better than that? Right?
Astonishing. It's astonishing.
It's astonishing what he did on that field.
And this is the thing. His defense, man. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm gonna give you some advice. You better act like you a damn cuckoo bird, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
He better plead crazy insanity and
mental
everything, because
health issues. Yeah.
DC, just listen to what you just said. You got all of this phenomenal body of work on that film. Not one time did you say he had a problem with his behavior. None.
Correct.
Not in high school,
Because
not
he
in,
was coming up.
all the colleges he went to, all of these stepping stones that it took him to where he was. Even the mere fact that he got a certain degree of arrogance.
Right.
Nobody said that.
Right.
None. So now all of a sudden, several years ago into his professional career, all of a sudden he started acting out because somebody put their forearm to his damn dome
I know Ray
and gave
Lewis
him
laid
some
him
kind
out one time too in a game, so I don't know if that impacted
yeah.
his brain or anything like that.
I
Would you
seen
say?
that he probably shook him up like a rattle, bro. His brain must have got rattled because DC, the things that I've heard him say when he was interviewed was so off base
Mm-hmm.
constantly, no matter what it is. The just the mere fact of how he spoke to his family members. I'm talking about this stuff is alleged stuff, but it was on the news and they covered it, and the things that he talked about was so off the wall
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden. So we're talking about a guy who's got some severe mental issues, man. Because
Mm-hmm.
the thing when you would do logically don't register to him. Shit,
Right.
it's bad, man. He thought leaving the country was a good idea. That
That
goes to
was
show you
not a
he's
very
a
smart
cuckoo
thing to
bird.
do. That was not a
I don't
very
know
smart thing to do, to
who's
leave the country.
advising him to skip town like that, man. Who in the
I don't
world?
think anybody with a good conscience, a good sense advised him to leave. I think he left on his own, and I think he decided that, look, I'll just wait this thing out for whatever he was thinking. I don't think it was very logical to think that way, because when you have the legal system pressing on you, you have to face it. You have to come back and you have to face it, because he should have never left, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, let me show you something. The news was covering this thing, asking for him to turn himself in, and he was missing it like a fugitive. And all of a sudden, days or weeks later, he's riding around on a bicycle in Dubai or somewhere in the Middle East, and he was parading around like a kid in a candy store, like as if, man, I'm good. Like nothing ever happened. Like I'm just on vacation and I'm enjoying myself. And I'm not intending to come back over there under no circumstances. So these prosecutors said, okay, well, we're going to track you down and bring you back. And they put together all of this enforcement and went over there and picked him up and brought him back. It was like really, really sophisticated police work to track him down and bring him back. And man, you just really do not phantom a guy who has such a nice career in sports. And it's something where it's such sadness
Mm-hmm.
when you look at all the players around the country in high school and college, they dream of having a career in the NFL. And Antonio Brown was one of the best that you can lay your eyes on to run a route, to catch a ball, to do it at this level, like it's Hall of Fame type of level.
Yep.
His career was. It was Hall of Fame type of, under no circumstances where you say, hell no, I'm not putting him in the first ballot Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's got to face the consequences of an attempt murder. And
That's very
bro,
unfortunate. Like I was saying earlier, the Antonio Brown on the football field was completely different from the Antonio Brown as a regular, civilian walking around on the streets and off the football field, because his concentration level when he played football was to be the best he could be. And I haven't even went over his pro accomplishments, because if you look at his career highlights as a an NFL player. I mean, he lit it up as an NFL player, drafted in the 6th round. So he wasn't supposed to make it technically. If you look at
This is
that
what
type,
I'm saying.
when you get drafted in the 6th, they don't have much
You talking
stock
about
that you're going to make it.
DC? Just think about this, man. We talking about the 6th round. That's the same damn round Shedeur Sanders got drafted in,
Right.
and he ain't even touched the damn field yet. They're treating him like a stepchild.
Mm-hmm.
And here's Antonio Brown going there is going to be a freaking Hall of Famer if they treat him fairly when it just comes to his body of work, because your attitude can push you in the back burner. And
Yeah.
the mere fact that he's burnt so many bridges with people, he might not get there with just all that beautiful body of work. He may not get there. They might find some little reason not to induct him in the Hall of Fame because of his attitude and how he carried himself off the field. And then the way he, left the game. He left the game sleazy. Out of all of that good body of work, he left the game sleazy. And not only that, you're talking about one of the best players that ever played the game was throwing him the ball the last part of his career with Tom Brady.
True.
And then he found a way to fall out.
And he turned on Tom
him.
Brady as well, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
What else
it blows
can
me
you do
away.
for this guy?
It blows me away. It really does. Because right here, and I'm gonna briefly go down his NFL career. If you look at it in a nutshell, I'm gonna go down his NFL career and say that it's impressive. I mean, he played 8 years at Pittsburgh, and the numbers that he put up at Pittsburgh to me is Hall of Fame numbers. If you think about it, I mean, if you look at his accomplishments at Pittsburgh, he got drafted in the 2010 draft, and he played for the Steelers for 8 years. He became All-Pro receiver, one of the most dominant offensive players in the NFL. 7-time Pro Bowl, 4-time first team All-Pro, NFL receiving yards leader in 2014 and 17. Notable seasons: 129 catches, 1,698 yards, 13 TDs in 2014. 2015, 136 catches, 1,834 yards, and 10 TDs. And then he went on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers once he left Pittsburgh, because actually he wore out his welcome in Pittsburgh. It somehow his attitude went south right before he left Pittsburgh.
That's the reason why he left Pittsburgh.
Exactly. His attitude went south. He left Pittsburgh, and I don't even think he was going to get back into the league if it wasn't for Tom Brady. He should be thanking Tom Brady for bringing him in to win a Super Bowl on top of all of that. But, sometimes people, when you help them or when anyone helps them,
DC,
they bite the hand that feed them.
It was a lot of weird stuff that happened to him in the spur of several months. Because remember, he was going to the Raiders, then he was then going to...
Yes. He was traded to the Raiders in 19.
Mm-hmm.
He played a single game due to conflict with management and helmet disputes and stuff like that. And then he signed with the Patriots in 19, yes. And he played one game. He caught a TD from Brady, and then he was released for off the field allegations of whatever went down. But he didn't stay with the Patriots long at all. And then 2021, he ended up with a comeback with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He signed mid-season 2020, reuniting with Brady, helped win the Super Bowl versus the Chiefs, scored a TD in that game. And 2021 season cut short after his infamous shirtless exit mid-game versus the Jets because he didn't want to go back in. I guess he told Bruce Arians he was hurt. But whatever the case may be, all of the wheels fell off at that point. All of the wheels came off the train at that point, in my opinion, because then off field, he started having these issues. And you mentioned some earlier where his girlfriend and him had that big disagreement and police had to show up. And, You know, they didn't arrest
It
him.
was
They
like
didn't do
one thing
anything
after
to
the
him.
other, man.
But it was one thing after the
He
other.
was in his condo. He was throwing furniture downstairs allegedly,
Yes.
and it was just one thing after the other with him. So I'm saying mental issues is wrapped around him, and that should. I mean, they need to really give him some deep evaluations of his brain, DC, because this is not normal stuff
Mm-hmm.
at all. Man, just the mere fact that I called him a jackass when I seen the footage of how he spoke to his son. Because you don't think any man, I mean, it don't
Would
matter
talk to a
how you were
child
raised,
like that.
you don't
Yeah.
talk to your kid
Or
like
around a
that and
child. He
call your
didn't
kid
talk to the
out of his
child. He was just
name,
talking
and
that
he
kind of
was just
nonsense around a
marginalizing
child.
it.
Yeah.
It was some really, really harsh words he had for his little son. And I thought that was really devastating to that kid to hear their dad not defending him on anything that you would think of a father to love and nurture and protect your son, but to talk to him so wickedly and to marginalize him and demonize him verbally, man, and thought it was all right. And it's like, damn it, this guy got some stuff going on upstairs, and he need to really get it checked out because those kind of words strike a kid like a lightning bolt
Mm-hmm.
with the father talking to him like that. And he would grow up and never forget those words. And you don't understand how those words strike and how deep they go, and you would never forget them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know he took an account for that, man. And that's why I'm saying this guy, first off, they need to give him some help. He needs some
I
help.
think he
I don't know
needs
how
to
you
be
put a
looked
guy
at
on
and given
trial
some help as
and,
well.
and, and throw him in the can, and he's got some mental issues because people have gotten off on murder trials because they was mentally disturbed. And I surely believe this is a primary case where you got a nut case. This guy is freaking
Mm-hmm.
nuts, DC. No doubt about it. Because the thinking and the behavior of him is not normal, man.
Mm-hmm.
If he had this stuff happening throughout his lifespan, I can justify all of this as a pro.
Mm-hmm.
With all of the off the field battles and the in house stuff with these organizations, it could be justified. But the mere fact that nobody said anything bad about him when he was going through his career in college, and look at how many colleges he jumped and went to, the nobody said anything derogatory about him.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody said anything where say he misbehaved. But
Yeah.
all of a sudden, he came into a year where when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the longest he was there, out of 8 years, and now all of a sudden he's got an issue with his behavior, DC. He's been there for 8 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Out of those 8 years, we never heard anything wrong with Antonio Brown until he got clocked a couple times, and it looked like he was knocked the hell out, and then
Yeah,
he
that
just
shot
started
that he
acting
took
crazy after
that
that.
shot that he took from Ray Lewis was pretty devastating from what I could see from the angle that I saw him take the hit.
Man, that might have been the
Yeah.
thing that juggled his brain and threw his alignment off, because that dude is not aligned right. His brain is not straight. It's veering to the left really hard, bro. His freaking brain is veering to the left. It's pulling to the damn left hard. Because every time you hear him speak, every time he's at a function, it's always something. Yep.
Yeah, it looks like he was in Dubai for multiple months. I mean, I don't know specifically how many months he was in Dubai for, but it looks like a judge signed a warrant to have him picked up to be brought back once they found out. And by the way, Dubai is the United Arab Emirates. It's UAE, and that's the city that's in United Arab Emirates. And they've had Americans before go over there and get in trouble, not just Dubai, but some of those other countries where.
Well, they wasn't fleeing DC. The people that I know went over there, they got in trouble under those laws, not the American law, and where they had to come get them. This guy fled over there, so it's a little bit different. I've
Because I
known
know,
people to go over there and get in trouble.
Dallas
Yes, I
Austin
was thinking about
went
him.
over to that region. I don't know whether he was
And he
in
got
Dubai or
jammed somewhere.
not, but I do
Yeah.
know he went over to that region and had some issues, some legal issues over there. And Dallas Austin was one of the most talented producers in the industry
Yeah.
at that time. You know, he's a songwriter and a record producer as well.
Part of that L.A. Reid and Babyface clan.
Yeah.
He was pushing out all those hits in the 90s and the 80s and in the early 2000s.
I'm just surprised that he was able to stay that long in Dubai, because you would think that on a tourist visa, 90 days is tops. Anywhere in the world, you go somewhere, you could stay 90 days on a visa or on your passport. But
DC, you got to remember, Antonio Brown is a celebrity. He got a couple bucks. He should have had a couple bucks. And they let him parlay over there, man. But the main thing is, you're talking about a guy who was a fugitive.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't do nothing but put together this investigation and probably tapped his damn phone and watch every movie made and just went over there and bring them back. That's all. You can't run. You can hide, but you can't. You can run and you can hide, but they're going to come get you, man. It's just so much that an investigation can do to come get you, man.
Mm-hmm.
You still got to eat. You still got to use your car to live.
Absolutely.
And the moment you use that phone or the card, they got you. So
Yeah.
it ain't nothing but a matter of jumping on the plane and go get him, you know? And that flight is a long flight. So
That's
he
for
had
sure.
a long time to think about what stupid move he made to go over there. Because that's another charge. When you flee, that's another charge. When they got where
that's
you
for sure.
supposed to be coming in and you don't come in and you skip out the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whew, man.
Well, after
You better
the incident itself, when the night that it happened, he was briefly detained and then he was released. And I think after a further investigation, they were able to kind of tie him that he was allegedly the person did grab the firearm and fired off a few shots from that firearm. Luckily enough, it didn't hit anybody directly. Supposedly the person who filed a complaint said that he ducked and he was grazed. At least he felt the graze from a bullet. But either way you look at it, we're going to hope and pray for Antonio Brown to face these charges, deal with whatever consequences come his way, and try to regain a little bit of normalcy in his life. I mean, I'm going to be pulling for him, because I hate to see anybody go from, especially when you came from where he came from, work your way up, you get to where you want to be, and then all of a sudden things start to fall apart. And that's just not acceptable, period, to me, any kind of way you look at it, you know. So we'll continue to cover and keep an eye on his case in Miami, because it's going to be a case, and at some point in time, they're going to be, you know, the news is going to be kind of going back and forth about some of the case. He faces consequences of a second-degree attempted murder charge in Florida, which carries a potential penalty up to 15 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. So we'll see how his legal team approaches that and how they have a strategy to try to get him off.
That's just one charge you're talking about.
And that's just one charge, because the fugitive charge is a whole nother charge in itself. Just leaving and not showing up to court, you know. So anyway, we are going to take a break, and we're going to come back in about 15 minutes, and we're going to cover the second half of our show on Saturday night. Looks like Alabama just defeated LSU, and we have some other games to report, and we're going to talk a little bit about some college football and Erik Spoelstra's house and how it was burned to the ground, and they're
Yeah.
still looking into it. So we'll be back in 15 minutes. Take it easy. We'll see you soon.